Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Illumineers Quest podcast, where we talk everything Lorcana. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jacob.
And thanks for coming on this journey with us. That was better than last time.
That was better than last time.
That was better than last time. I'm pretty sure this episode's coming out directly after the legendary tier list. Yeah. I completely butchered it last time. I did not this time. Yeah. But yeah, okay. If you're on YouTube or you're on Spotify, you can see that we have another tier list for you. We've got our patented, always get something completely wrong, top card, favorite card tier list.
All right, let's do it. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I think we like to do this early on because it gives people kind of some hot takes into, what's going to be good and what they should, consider buying like singles of if they're singles buyers, or what they should consider building around if they're, looking to build some new decks for their league or for some of the, maybe they have upcoming tournaments. And so just want to go ahead and throw these out there. Some of these are very easy to rank already. Some of them are a little bit harder and we may get wrong, but that's half the fun of it, right?
I'm looking through. I see a lot of S's, dude.
There's not a lot of S's.
There's a lot of S's.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, we didn't fight in the legendary one. We might fight in this one.
There's a lot of S's.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. So as always, everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for being with us here for over a year now, for those of you that have. We appreciate all the support. If you're looking to buy your singles or any of these cards interest you in buying, if you want to use our TCG Player affiliate link to buy your singles, that's the best way to help support the podcast, and we really appreciate everyone that does so. Okay, so I think we just said we're going to jump into this. Again, we usually do card of the week. These are kind of our cards of the week this week. A lot of them we wanted to talk about, so that's why they're on this top card tier list. And then as far as news and everything, it's still pretty much just like brew and test season, right? I don't think there's much anything else to say from that. And so
we got a lot of cards to cover. Let's just jump into it.
These are usually like our hour and 30-minute episodes. And so we're going to try to not keep everybody for like 4 hours this week. And we're just going to jump into it. And so the first one up on the list is Daisy Duck Donald's Date. Alliteration and a very good card. She's got a 1-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line, quests for 2. And has the ability, whenever this character quests, each opponent reveals the top card of their deck. If that is a character card, they may put that card into their hand. Otherwise, they may put it to the bottom of their deck.
So S, right?
Yeah, it's an S tier. I mean, there's really no debating that. As much as I don't like it, it's that good. I think my very noob mind of Lorcana still is looking at that ability. And again, if you're out there, you're looking at their ability, you're like, I don't want to give my opponent cards. You don't care. You genuinely just don't care.
But honestly, the ability is kind of a plus too, because if you're putting all those Be Prepared, those Grab Your Swords, those Whole New Worlds at the bottom of the deck.
Yep. That's a very good point.
It's insane.
Yeah, you don't care that they're getting another card. And you might be saying, hey, Zach, why don't you care that I'm giving my opponent another card? Well, let me tell you. The reason is because these games are going to finish in 5 turns.
Yeah.
And if they don't finish in 5 turns, then you're probably losing anyways. And so you have to look at like the average ink cost of a normal deck. And I mean, if you're playing all 60 cards, you sum up all their costs, you divide it by 60. Most of that time, I think it's going to be around like high 3s, low 4s, most likely. The average cost of the new like hyper aggro Amber Amethyst deck, I think is like 1.4 or 1.5. No, it's a little higher than that. It's closer to 2. But anyways, and so you can, on turn 2, you're basically able to play 2 cards from there on out. And so the thought is, since you're finishing out the game so fast, who cares if they have 7 cards in their hand? They're not able to play but 1 until turn 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And by that time, the game's over.
Yeah.
So Daisy's insane. I don't like her at all because I hate playing against aggro. It completely changes the meta in the sense that in previous sets, you were kind of hedging one way or the other. You were kind of hedging towards control. You're kind of hedging towards mid-range control. Now you have to be worried about control with Sapphire Steel, and you have to be worried about hyper aggro with Amber Amethyst.
True.
And so like you're opening mulligans, you're opening hands, you're opening what you're like digging for, and your initial 7 cards is like hard to decide if you're doing it blindly. So I hate that.
You almost just have to go for your ideal play.
If you're on the draw, I don't know. Honestly, on the draw, I don't know. If you're on the play, then yeah, you play your game because you just get to go first. If you're on the draw, I kind of think you have to like mulligan for it, because if you don't, then you just lose. Like again, like I said, you lose in like 5 turns. And so if you're not mulliganing for something to deal with this, and that's what your opponent's playing, especially on the draw, then it's GG.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm actually going to skip ahead here. I'm going to go off script, and I'm going to go Amethyst Chromicon. And you know why? Because it's with this deck. I'm going to say this is B tier. And I'm sure that's a hot take, especially looking at your face.
Wow.
So Amethyst Chromicon is a 2-cost inkable item, and it says exert for free. And it doesn't have an ink cost, but I'm saying for free because that's a big piece of it. Each person draws a card. So again, you're ramping your opponent, you're ramping yourself. The reason it's B tier, and I think you'll agree with me after I say this, is it's only good in that hyper aggro deck. It's insane in that hyper aggro deck, but it's only good in that deck, because in any other circumstance, if you're ramping your opponent, that's bad. Or if you're giving your opponent cards, that's bad. Again, in the hyper aggro deck, you give yourself another card that you can just play that turn. You give your opponent another card that they can't play that turn. And so who cares that you're giving them a card? In any other circumstance, in mid to late game, if you're giving your opponent a card, that's really, really bad. Don't just be quiet.
I know.
Say some words.
I think it's A tier at least.
No,
at
it's
least.
B tier. Do you not agree with everything I just said?
I do, but what it's good in, it absolutely excels at.
All right, we'll put it A tier.
I think it's A for sure, because if you get this on board along with the daisies and stuff, it's game. It's game.
Yeah,
it's so
I mean,
huge.
it's really hard to deal with, that's for sure. But again, I just think in the past we've talked about cards in these tier lists and like the limitations or how like widely impactful they'll be.
Is Dime S?
Yes.
Then this is S.
But Dime is used in every Sapphire deck. This will not be used in half the Amethyst decks. Just like Friends. You want to go back to the song tier list? You said Friends was used in every single Amethyst deck, and so it's S tier. This is only used in like a 1/10 of Amethyst decks.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I like it a lot.
I do too. But again, if it's not used like universally, then it can't be like that great.
All right.
You know I'm right. You're just now we're getting into the you're on your pedestal and we're over here fighting about it.
We got to move on.
Yeah, we do. So are we leaving it A or are we moving it B? I'll let you have the final say.
A.
Okay. You're wrong, but that's fine. Okay, S tier. This is an easy one. If you watched the legendary tier list, Prince Naveen, the ukulele player, the 4-cost uninkable, 3/3 stat line, quest for 2, and has the ability of Singer 6. And whenever you play this character, you can play a song of 6 cost or less for free. Which is better? Which is the best card in the set, Daisy or Naveen?
Naveen.
Okay.
Naveen.
I kind of think so as well. I think he has like more impactful moments throughout the game but anyways, this is this Amber set, right? You know, Amber like got nothing last set. Like what was Amber's best card last set?
Last set? Well, gosh, why am I blanking?
I know. I mean, Singer 9, Cinderella, Singer 7, Ariel, all the Madrigals, Gaston, exert for 2, pay 2 less.
They got nothing, dude.
Julieta Madrigal, Ursula, Vanessa, look at this family. Like those are all like low A, B tier cards. Nothing like insanely broken. I feel like this is definitely Amber's set with those 2 cards. It's not a ton to say about Prince Naveen. We talked about it a lot in the last one. You're guaranteed just boatloads of value when you play him. He constantly adds value with the Singer 6 ability. He constantly adds value with a quest for 2 that I think would have been fine questing for 1, but they gave him 2, and so that's insane. So yeah, I love Prince Naveen a ton. I think he's gonna continue to be extremely relevant for a long, 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 long time to come.
I agree. I mean, I think it's a huge card. Just seeing the Amber both S is crazy.
I know. I mean, I don't think it stays like that necessarily, but we'll move on to the last character first, and then we got one of the Vanellope cards. We've got Vanellope, Sugar Rush Princess, the 4-cost inkable, 2/4 stat line, quests for 2. She shifts for 2, which is really and crazy. We've seen with like the Queen, for instance, that shifts for 2. And Diablo doesn't shift for 2, but he can shift on 2.
Shift on 1.
Yeah, technically. I mean, obviously, but I just mean anytime we've seen cards that
Yeah.
can shift on 2 that can add that much value that early on in the game, especially something that has a 4 willpower body, quests for 2, has a lot of value. She's not near as insane as Naveen or Daisy by any means, but I see a world where this is very good and continues to see a lot of play. She has just the standard 1 cost 2/2 stat line, quest for 1, shift target. So you can just play her, shift her on 2, sing Zeus to kill the Daisy, sing friends if you're on some weird Amber Amethyst build, sing let Storm Rage on to get another card. So there's just so much potential when you're able to shift that big a body that early on.
I don't know where to place this. I'm gonna leave it to you.
B or C?
I'm gonna say C.
Okay. I was kind of leaning B, but I'm like looking over here and seeing like these other options, and I'm like, probably in comparison, it should be B and C. But yeah, so Vanellope, really fun one. Also the card from this set in the D23 box. So
True.
that's a fun one.
Notable.
Okay, last card in Amber. We're going to get into Rapunzel's Tower. I think this is a weird one because most locations that don't have lore are very unplayable. However, I've done some testing with this and I think a little differently. So Rapunzel's Tower is a 2-cost inkable quests. Wow. 2-cost inkable, 1 move cost, 8 willpower, and has the ability that all characters at Rapunzel's Tower get +3 willpower while there.
So obviously we have to make an instant comparison to something like a Hidden Cove. That's the closest thing we have.
I think so, yeah.
And obviously Hidden Cove's quite playable.
Yeah.
And maybe not so much anymore, but it was during its time. So I think this is A tier.
I want to say B, and again, if it had lore, it would be S tier.
True.
The only reason I have it B tier and not A tier is just because like I don't know what to cut from the list. Like I initially was testing this in my list, and it performed very well. But the more I like wanted to refine, and the more I wanted to change, the more I realized like I just needed some spots for some other things, and so like this is what had to get cut. If you're running like a super wide Madrigal board, however, talking about Maribel from the legendary tier list, like throw everything in Rapunzel's Tower and play Maribel, and then nothing dies.
Yeah, that's true. I like that a lot.
So I don't think it's busted. I think it has a lot of potential, especially if you are trying to play wide decks, with a sneaking stuff out with Surfer Stitch, play 1, ink 1, draw a card, or Perdita potentially. You're playing a lot of under 2-cost cards to fish stuff out with Perdita. I think there's a world where Rapunzel's Tower finds a really strong deck to be in. I just don't think it's necessarily in like the most meta decks like your Steel Songs and your Mufasa decks. Obviously, it's not part of a Mufasa deck because it's not a character, but I think B tier is probably fair.
All right. I'm fine with it.
Okay. So a quick recap of Amber and the Amethyst Chromicon. We've got S tier, we've got Naveen and Daisy Duck. I think those are probably the 2 easiest rankings we'll have of this entire set. We've got A tier, we've got the Amethyst Chromicon, and we did that one early because it is the biggest synergy with Daisy Duck that there is. B tier, Rapunzel's Tower, and C tier, the Floodborn Vanellope card. So moving on to Emerald now, we've got 4 cards and a couple of the legendaries we've already talked about, but
we're moving to Emerald?
Oh, Amethyst. Sorry, you're right. I'm trying to go in order. And that's why I wanted to put them in order. And you were like, oh, it's not that big a deal. And I'm over here like fumbling again.
I got you.
We're moving to Amethyst. Again, we already talked about the Amethyst Chromicon. So yeah, let's finish that one out.
These are so
These are
strong,
all insane. Like,
Can I say it now? Like A tier or above?
no, I think it's A and B tier. I think they're all A and B tier.
Dude,
I think they're and S.
Yeah.
And S. Okay, so we'll start. Is the S Cogsworth?
Yes.
Okay. God, it's very weird. Cogsworth's probably a top 3 card of the set. I think that's fair.
Let's 1 cost, inkable, 1 strength, 1 willpower, quest for 1, on play, grant chosen character rush this turn.
Which could be himself as well.
Yes.
Yeah. The initial thought was like, oh, everybody's already got Rush. You've already got, Fox, and you've already got like Shadow Finder and Peter Pan Shadow, but he's inkable, he's really low cost, and he gives anything Rush, so you can like really catch your opponent off guard. You can catch your opponent off guard with a crab. You can catch your opponent off guard with a snake. You can catch your opponent off guard with any of those like overstated bounce bodies, and just destroy people.
I don't know, maybe something like a Pegasus, the evasive 3/1, like or the Surhis, something like that, that's just evasive and
Yeah, that's a decent thought as well. I mean, playing this early on, and getting out those, like cheap trades is insane. And then getting it out late with things that are like really massive. I mean, I'm just making stuff up now, but like a Tamatoa that, you can get out a massive body, you give it rush, and then go kill or / banish whatever you need.
5/8 rush.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane. And I think it's going to completely change the way you have to play Amethyst. You have to always be ready for whatever characters you have on board to die. All the like the singers and your Steel Song, like if you're just singing away and wiping their board, doesn't mean they're necessarily safe anymore. So you got to be really careful about it. Love cogs. Secondarily, one of the best, what I thought would be best combos of the set would be with Madame Mim Elephant, the 4-cost inkable new. That was loud, and sorry. I'm trying to pick up my phone to be able to read the rest of the stat line for Madame Mim Elephant, and I'm dropping it. 4-cost inkable, 3/7 stat line, quests for 1. Has the same bounce ability that says when you play this character, you must return another character to your hand or banish this character. And then, more importantly, however, has the ability that says at the start of your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from this character to chosen opposing character. So with the 3/7 stat line, the potential to play her cogs, rush, put damage on something, and then next turn, like have a hard time removing it because it has 7 willpower, that's insane to me.
So this might sound weird, but I'm going to compare it to Robin Hood Heroic Outlaw. Because it's something...
Robin Hood?
Yeah. It's something you can get out early.
Robin Hood Heroic Outlaw.
Did I say that wrong?
You said Robin Hood Heroic Outlaw.
Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood. That's what I mean.
Okay, we're better there. Keep going.
Because something you can get out super early that has +6 willpower, and it's got that 3 strength. So really tough to get rid of that early.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, in an ideal world, I think this is probably a turn 5 play just because you want to be able to rush her in and deal that damage, to have those damage counters on there. And so it's not quite as early, but yeah, I get your point. Like anything like under 6 cost that has 7 willpower is not easy to deal with. And again, if they're not playing Ruby and Maui, really hard to deal with.
I mean, even if you're getting this out turn 4, you're still getting value until they pop out that Maui or
absolutely. I don't think, and the only reason I don't think this one is like as busted as the rest. I think there's already a ton of really good mounts, and I think you have to be very specific about how many you play. I don't think this is a 4 of. I think this is B tier.
Okay.
Again, I think this is a fantastic card. Like Rapunzel's Tower and both of these, like these are like extremely playable cards here. It's not that by any means. It's just it's not like utterly busted by any means.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next Amethyst one that continues to be like extremely playable. We've got Elsa the Fifth Spirit, the biggest whiff of a not having an enchanted card that we've had in Lorcana yet. The 5-cost inkable 2/5 stat line, quest for 1, has rush, has evasive, and has the ability that says when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character. So this is the hyper aggro lunch eater.
Yeah. I mean, my only thing is that I know have you tested with this at all yet?
No, I haven't played any Amethyst. I need to build an Amethyst deck. That's the one I haven't built yet. I've tried. There's so sorry to cut you off. There's so many between snake, fox, rabbit, goat, elephant, cogs, Elsa. Like, what do you cut? Like, and then we haven't gotten to the library yet, and the library castle. Like, there's like 45 cards that you want to play.
It's huge.
And I tried to build a new Ruby Amethyst, 2 different Ruby Amethyst decks, and I had 40 Amethyst cards in both of those lists, and I was just like, don't know what to cut. And so I'm just not good enough of a Ruby Amethyst player or an Amethyst player to like really make those decisions. So I'm just kind of waiting and seeing what other people do. But this is an insane card.
My one concern is, does it come out too late to deal with aggro?
No, because between Cogsworth and Snake and Fox, like you're killing a bunch of stuff. You're banishing a bunch. I keep saying killing. I guess it's not that big of a deal, but you banish everything. You're banishing everything, and then you're just then you're able to deal with another thing that was played that turn on turn 5, and so all of your characters are living through those trades as well. So I've seen a lot of people start playing Rafiki on one. So Rafiki, Snake, or not even Snake, but something like a Cogsworth and another 1 cost to then give that other 1 cost Rush to then be able to banish something. You can go pretty wide too, and if they're giving you another card, then you're definitely, between Daisy and Chromacon, then you're going to have enough to deal with it. Amethyst is actually one of the better colors to deal with it.
True.
So.
I agree. Especially like Ruby Amethyst. I've seen like turn 1 Rafiki, turn 2 Lumiere. Like you just...
Yeah, that's a good point too. Anyways, yeah, so no, I think this is really good one. I think this is like the most A tier card that we have.
I agree.
It's not like game breaking, but it's one of those, like I said with Cogsworth, like it's going to catch you off guard. It's exert ability, exert chosen opposing character. It's not even necessarily her that's going in to then challenge. Like if you have a fox on board, or if you have a snake on board, or if you have a crab on board, like all those things are going to be very big menaces to deal with. And so you have to be very careful of what's happening when you're getting into turn 5 now, not just because of Maui, but because of Elsa, and then turn 6. So like turn 5 on for a Ruby Amethyst is like a pest to deal with.
I don't know why I'm associating this word with her, but like she's elite. Like,
oh, absolutely elite. Like again, if we're talking about cards that are going to guarantee value, she's going to guarantee you value. Like there's so many different abilities that she has that she's getting a ton of value. It might not be the most every time because she might not be banishing the character that she's rushing in and challenging, but 2 damage is nothing to sniff at. Imagine having to put 2 damage more on a castle or on some other location. Like it's incredibly relevant. So I think she's one of my favorite cards for the set, and probably my favorite art for the set.
Does this help tempo at all?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure.
So yeah, imagine like
there's a world where your tempo plays are like back in action.
Imagine you pop that in, then you do the Ana, you banish chosen damage, that Elsa damage. Like, there's play.
There absolutely is. Okay, and the last one, the library. I honestly don't know where to put this one. This is the new location in Amethyst that I think there's a world where it's better than Castle. I think there's a world where it's worse than Castle. Again, I'm not an Amethyst player. At the core of me, I've done a lot of research. I've looked at what a lot of people that are better than me playing Amethyst online have said, and I think it's usually like a 3-3 split now, or like a 2-3 split between Castle and Library. So Library is a 3-cost inkable, 1 move cost, 8 willpower. Quest for 1 has 1 lore pip for every turn, and says whenever a character is banished while here, you may draw a card. So more ways to draw cards from location for Amethyst. 8 willpower is bonkers, and you're getting lore off of it. So yeah, I think it's insane. I think the ability, the fact that you have the control over moving characters there and then banishing them, relieves the reliance on like Chernabog and Broom that are usually played on 1 to then banish themselves to draw the cards, because you can kind of force them into other cards into the library and then have them banished or have them be banished. And so you don't have to do that. I know a lot of people are still playing followers and brooms to like have their a lot of control over that. But I think it's really, really, really good.
I mean, I think it's just overall really solid. Like I think,
is this A or B? Sorry to cut you off.
It's A.
A.
It's A.
I think so too.
Amethyst is so strong in the set.
Yeah,
it's so really strong.
Like I said, the biggest problem Amethyst has right now is that there are too many good cards.
It's a problem. Like it needs a 70 deck.
The deck that I built, the Ruby Amethyst deck I built yesterday, ended at 70 cards, and I was like, I can't cut 10. And then I just stopped because I genuinely didn't know what to cut. But anyways, okay, quick Amethyst recap. We've got Cogsworth at S tier, a very easy inclusion up there as well. We've got in A tier, we've got Elsa, the Amethyst Chromacon that we already put there, and the library. And then in B tier, we have Madame M. Elephant. So moving on to Emerald now, we've got a couple familiar faces and a couple new ones. We've got Clarabelle and Ana from the legendary tier list. We had Clarabelle in B tier. Does she stay in B tier with all these other cards?
Yes.
I kind of think so as well. So Clarabelle is the 7-cost inkable, 5/6 stat line, quests for 2, shifts for 5, and has the ability that says at the end of your turn, if your opponent has more cards than you, you may draw until you have the same number of cards. So really good in ramp decks because you just dump your hand and then get all the cards back when you get to 5. But but green-blue ramp is not historically good, and I don't think it will be good in the longer term. If you're playing in like a low resource discard environment, your opponent's probably not going to have any cards either, so she doesn't get a bunch of value there. I think there's world where she's good. I think she'll get better over time. I think right now she's playable, but not as busted as everybody's making her out to be.
I agree.
That's it. You just agree and move on.
Well, I mean, we've talked about her like.
Yeah,
before.
that's fair. I just again, you know, I'd like a little banter. You know, it's fun, but we'll just move on to Anna and see if we can banter about this one that we've already agreed upon. And Anna is the other Emerald Legendary, the 3-cost uninkable 2/3 stat line, quests for 2, and has the ability that says whenever you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to do one of the following abilities. The way that I was thinking about Anna is not a 3-cost character, but more of a 5-cost character, because when you're playing her, you want to activate one of those abilities, and those 3 abilities are each opponent chooses and discards a card, chosen character gets +2 strength this turn, or banish chosen damage character. So again, if you think about a 5-cost character, 5-cost character that can just do what you need it to given the circumstances of the game, it's a really good card.
I think we had her at A.
We did.
I think she gets bumped down to height of B.
I'm totally fine with that. I could agree with, or I very much agree. Yeah, I don't have much to say on that one either. I think the flexibility, the last thing I'll say, and then we can move on, is the flexibility of that card is very underrated in today's like current discussions around the new set.
I agree on that.
Okay, moving on to super rare in Emerald, Mother Gothel, a new super rare Mother Gothel in Emerald. The 6-cost inkable 4/6 stat line. Quest for 2, shifts for 4, which is very important, given the card's ability that says when you play this character, each opponent chooses one of their characters and returns that card to their hand. So gets around early ward.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were. Yeah, go.
So I hate the idea of giving your opponent the ability to bounce back what they want. Obviously, if their board is somewhat cleared, then they don't really have a choice. But like they're playing something ruby or steel. Like,
you're right. There's circumstances where this is not as good as a Lady Tremaine, but imagine again a scenario with the Muses. Imagine a scenario with Cogsworth. Imagine a scenario with any of those other pesky characters that you just need to deal with. And on turn 4, shifting for 4, if it was just straight 6, I would tend to agree with you. The fact that you can shift on 4, quest for 2, and has a 4/6 body, that's crazy. Like she's got a bigger body, or the same willpower, more strength than Robin Hood. Shifts for 4. I'm not saying she's like insane. I'm saying she's probably, God. What do you think?
C. I just don't.
I think she's B. I think she's B.
What deck does she C play in?
Discard.
I don't think she does, dude.
Okay, we'll go see.
Bruno does a better job than her at that. We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah, but you play her and Bruno, and then you're just constantly disrupting their board. They're not, just like the Muses and Under the Sea, they're just not able to ever keep anything on board. And then you've got a 6 willpower singer for Under the Sea.
I don't know. I think she's unneeded.
You might be right. You could very well be right. I haven't done any Emerald testing yet. I've seen her played a little bit, but yeah, we'll move on to the last Emerald card, which I think is the most exciting Emerald one. You're welcome. We had a lot of fun interactions around You're Welcome at Disney.
Yes, we did.
It's the 4-cost inkable song that says shuffle chosen character, item, or location into that player's deck. That player draws 2 cards. So I think it's the best Emerald card for sure.
I think this is easy A.
Okay, I'm on the same boat. I think it's low A, probably worse than these 3. Or is it, let's go higher than the library. Let's go higher than the library.
Higher than Chromicon too, I think.
Okay, good, because I thought Chromicon was B tier.
You can move down Chromicon to low A.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah, I think it's really good. I think the biggest step back that Emerald had last set was the ability to deal with locations. If the game ever got out of control for their their strategy, then they were just kind of lost from there. And this helps them gain back some of that board control that is utterly needed. Even though you're ramping them, again, this goes in a discard deck where they probably are. You're giving them card advantage. This is going into a deck where they probably don't have a lot of cards to deal with anyways, and so you sing this and then discard the cards they draw, and who really cares?
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid A tier there. So wrapping up Emerald, we've got You're Welcome at A tier. We've got Anna and Clarabelle, the two legendaries at B tier, and we've got Mother Gothel at C tier. So moving on to Ruby, which I don't know. My quick thoughts about Ruby are going to be that this is about to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
All the red down there at the bottom with the of the list, because I was struggling to find cards to put onto this list because they're just not very exciting. The first card's probably the most exciting, in my opinion, but still just kind of not super fantastic. And so the first card we've got is Maximus, the team captain. He's the 6-cost inkable 3/5 stat line, quest for 2. He has an ability that says at the end of your turn, if you have any characters in play with 5 strength or more, gain 2 lore. If you have any character in play with 10 strength or more, gain 5 lore instead. So I think it's easier than people realize to get something to 10 strength at the end of your turn. Between the new Gaston that has 10 strength already, that you can cheat out faster, like the Chernobog, like the Kristoff, like the Sheriff of Nottingham. You've also got Maui at 6 already. If you're playing Amber Ruby, you've got the Queen to buff something by 4. Maui can have 10 strength at the end of the turn. So it's not as crazy as I think. That being said, this is one of those combo pieces that everything kind of has to go right, and is easy to pull off when you're ahead, but not easy to pull off when you're behind. Yeah. And so, it's his first D tier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So moving on, from Maximus, we've got another Vanellope card. This Taffeta. Sorry, it's little on the screen. I'm trying to get to the phone. Taffeta. I know.
Mutton fudge.
Taffeta mutton fudge. 4-cost inkable. Shifts for 2. So very similar to Vanellope from that respect. She's got a 3/3 stat line, however. Quests for 1. But it says once per turn, when this character moves to a location, gain 2 lore. If it wasn't once per turn, this would be utterly bonkers. This would be one of the funnest cards in the game. You just throw out some speedways and you just go bing, 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 bing.
Which, is that a dash ability?
Moving between locations?
Yeah, but not once per turn.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
He literally is able to cross, like, we're getting out of hand here, but like literally able to go from location to location.
So I like this card a lot. I would love to have a location moving deck where you have the Hey card that makes your opponent lose 1 lore when they move to location. Mm-hmm. You've got Taffeta, which is moving you to, getting you to lore when you're moving to locations, and they're having to just deal with all this stuff. I just don't think that strategy in general is very good. And so as much as I like this card and as much as I would like it to be like really awesome, I just don't think it's fantastic.
Is it also D?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Okay, moving on to the Legendary Robin Hood, which we talked about on the Legendary tier list. The Legendary Robin Hood is a 4-cost uninkable 1/4 stat line quest for 2. It has the ability that says whenever this character quests, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an action card with cost 6 or less and play it for free. Put the rest of your cards into your discard. Putting it into your discard is like just putting it over the top on like weird interactions for me. Like, why not just go to the bottom of your deck like every other ability that has this?
Yeah, I think this is also like an easy D. Like,
I might put this C. I'm going to put it C.
I don't think it does it all, dude.
I do.
No way.
If this pops off, it pops off though. This is one of those cards where like the Taffeta and Maximus probably aren't popping off. There's a world where this pops off.
Okay. It's uninkable. Not on play. 3 cards in your discard.
You're right. And I'm not putting it A, B, or S, A, or B.
That's a bad card.
I think it's better. Yeah, it's a bad card. Okay, fine. It's a bad card. Ruby Chromicon.
Okay.
We'll move on because how far are we in here? Oh, we're only 30. We're blazing through this. We're only 30 minutes in.
We're doing good.
This is the best card in Ruby, this set, right? Like easily?
I think so.
So yeah. Ruby Chromicon is a 1-cost item, in conjunction with the rest of the Chromicons that were given in each color. And it says exert, chosen character gets +1 strength this turn. Again, seems kind of shallow on the surface, but I cannot stress how much that 1 strength matters.
I think it's a B or C. Like I think it's really solid.
I think it's B. I think we can go the lowest on B, and here's the reason. Again, you probably get this, but just in case everybody hasn't put this together. Before, Maui on turn 5 could not take out a castle, could not take out anything. You'd have to have a bunch of other help. Ruby Chromicon played on 1, Maui on turn 5 takes out Castle.
It's just it's a good
It's
play.
a very good utility. It lets you trade up a lot of things. If you're again like on that, that line on 2 strength versus 3 strength, when you really need 3 strength, this gives anything you need 3 strength.
I see this comboing really well with the Cogsworth too. Like you give something rush, you give that same thing +1 strength to take out.
Yeah.
I think it's really solid.
I don't know if this is necessarily a Ruby Amethyst. Like this is in a lot of Sapphire Ruby builds I've seen.
Sure.
But I think that there's a lot of utility for it to be had with this, and it will definitely see a good amount of play.
For sure.
Okay, I think we're moving on to like a lot of exciting cards now. So we're finished with Ruby. It unfortunately, like I said, went through a blender. We've got in B tier, we've got the Ruby Comic-Con. And then in D tier, we've got Maximus, Tafita Mutton Fudge, and Robin Hood. So a lot of that, though, I feel like is because Ruby's so good already that like adding to that is like really difficult to do.
Sure.
But that being said, they're clearly going down this new Ruby path on gaining lore based on strength, characters that you have on board between Flynn and Maximus and Gaston and some of these other like really high strength characters.
We didn't get a removal card.
Nothing.
It's crazy.
Like no removal. And I've said many times on the podcast that the removal dictates the meta, and there's no new removal to like really dictate the meta.
Yeah.
So
true.
Like I said, they shifted the kind of the structure of the ink from removal to getting lore based on strength.
Yeah.
So
it's odd.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you have to play Maximus plus Donald then too.
Yeah.
But anyways, I digress. All the Sapphire and Steel cards I think are super exciting, so we're gonna jump into that. First one on Sapphire is going to be Chicha, one of potentially the best cards in the set. She's a 2-cost uninkable, 2/1 stat line, quests for 1, and has the ability that also has support. I think the support piece is very overlooked.
Okay.
Very overlooked because again, think about giving something else 2 strength. She's not on there to do. If it was just support, that'd be different. But just having support is like a secondary ability that like it's there if you need it, especially to take out a Daisy Duck or something else crazy in hyper aggro.
Sure.
So her main ability, though, it says during your turn, when you put a card into your inkwell, if that second card you've put into your inkwell, or if that's the second card, you may draw a card. So ramp draw, ramp draw, ramp draw, ramp draw, ramp draw. It's crazy.
It's a needed card. I think it's insane.
Like, it's really, really good. Is this S or A?
You know what? Give Sapphire an S.
I was gonna say Cusco's Sapphire's S. I don't know. Gosh, I can't decide. I'm gonna put it A because
she's Sapphire Bucky, dude.
Yeah, but she doesn't have ward, or she doesn't have evasive. If she had evasive, I would 100% agree. But she's kind of got to kind of sit there, and she dies from everything because she's only got 1 willpower. So Tinkerbell, I think she's really, 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 really good. I'm not saying she's not. She's one of my favorite cards of the set. But uninkable and 1 willpower is kind of me. So,
okay.
Right. Cusco, however, I'm saying Cusco is like easy S. Meta, he's a meta defining card because previously the only way the Sapphire had to deal with locations was playing Sapphire Steel and using Rise of the Titans. You didn't really want to do that because Rise of the Titans and to most matchups was a dead card, and so you just ended up inking it and taking up a deck slot. Now with Cusco, who is a 6-cost inkable, what might I mention, inkable card, 3/5 body, very relevant, quests for 2, insane. That has the ability that says when you play this character, you may put chosen item or location into its player's inkwell face down and deserted. Get rid of Dime, not just go into the banish pile where Tamatoa can quest and get it right back. It's much harder to get it out of the inkwell. Mufasa obviously keeps it from being like completely gone, but it's still incredibly hard to get back. And then his second ability says pay 4 ink. Your other characters gain resist +1 until the start of your next turn, and you can do that as many times as you want and stack it as many times as you want. If you are in a position where you don't want to overextend into a B prep, spend all your ink, giving everything resist, and just quest. I guess it's crazy.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
It's nuts, right?
I don't know if it's necessarily S.
Oh, it's S. Okay. Trust me, it's S.
All right.
It's S. You're agreeable. I don't like it. I like arguing more.
I don't feel it's S.
You're guaranteed you're getting board presence. you're taking care of something important on their side. You have a massive body. You're questing for 2, and you have the like auxiliary ability of basically keeping everything from being able to die.
I mean, I don't know. I think Chicha deserves the S more than that.
I'd like to ask RMB and see what his position is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I genuinely could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's going to say Cusco.
Okay. All right.
Because again, think about like the broader spectrum of what Sapphire needs. Does that help the draw of Sapphire a lot? Sure. It keeps you from being 100% reliant on a whole new world in some of those decks, but you already have Flaversham. That's a massive card draw. So it's not like something you didn't have before. This is giving you stuff that you just didn't have in the ink that you can then really, really take care of positions where you just were in a really bad spot before. Castle, 8 Sapphire up last set. This keeps that from happening.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, opposing, I don't know, like dimes, something like that.
Yeah, and dimes again. If you were like in a dime race with your opponent and you just throw the dime into the discard, well, they just Tomato it right back, and it's like nothing ever happened. Yeah. And so, this is huge. But
it's huge for locations, but it's just like, what if your opponent's not playing locations?
Then you ink your own items, and you ramp yourself. See, big brain, brain.
Or you just ink the Cusco.
No, because you ink something else. You play the Cusco and ink one of your items and ramp yourself. 2 items in the inkwell that turn. And then Chicha draws for you.
Okay. See? All right. I see it. I see it.
I mean, it's I think it's fantastic. I'm going to put Mufasa in S tier as well, so you can fight me about this one. Mufasa is busted. In the general sense of all the cards of the set, Mufasa is busted. So real quick, because we talked about Mufasa in the legendary tier list, but 8 cost, uninkable, 4/9 stat line, 4/9, 4/9, 4/9. Quest for 4, 4, 4, 4. 2 abilities. When you play this character, exert all cards in your inkwell, then return 2 cards at random from your inkwell to your hand. Get to draw cards. Don't care that it unramps you, because next time you get to play the ink twice, because the second ability says when this character quests, ready all cards in your inkwell. So even though you go from 8 to 6 ink, you technically go from 8 to 12 ink because you use those 6 ink. Then you quest with Mufasa, you ready that 6 ink back up, and you got 6 more ink to use. So this is one of those cards like Diablo that, if goes unchecked, wins you games.
But that's the thing. It's much more difficult. It's much more difficult to deal with than a Diablo.
Exactly. So it's better than Diablo because it's much more difficult to deal with.
We had the same conversation.
Yep.
It's a little unneeded.
You're right. And that's why it's not the best card in the game. It's because Tamatoa does a lot of the same things, but the ability to draw cards, the ability to double use your ink, makes it to where if this card doesn't get removed, it wins you games. Just like Diablo. If you don't deal with Diablo, Diablo wins you games. If you don't deal with Mufasa, Mufasa wins you games.
So what are you doing to be able to to draw, to play, that much on every turn?
Chicha Flaversham.
Okay. So you agree that Chicha is really good then?
Yeah, I just said S tier.
You see?
Okay, well, let's move her to S tier then. Let's just make her S tier with all the rest of them.
All right.
And then Tipo. I'm gonna go Tipo A tier. You probably don't have a really strong opinion on Tipo yet, but
no, he's really strong.
Tipo is inkable. He's inkable ramp, which is very hard to come by these days. He's a 2 cost, 1/2 stat line, quests for 1, that has the ability that says when you play this character, you may put a card from your hand into your inkwell face down and exerted. So he's basically a one-time use Fishbone Quill, but he removes the need from you to play 1 jump on 2, which is uninkable, which gives you more uninkable slots to play for Ruby Sapphire for removal, or for Steel Sapphire for removal songs or other uninkable characters. I think he's insane. Maybe not like high A. Maybe we'll go like mid A.
I think another thing with him replacing 1 jump is 1 jump was very susceptible to a deceiver. If you're playing on draw, very susceptible to a deceiver pulling that out.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, that hadn't even crossed my mind, but that's a really, really good spot. Really good point.
So this one I think is huge for that reason as well.
Yeah, it's a little different because 1 jump obviously goes from your deck, not your hand, and so you're in a world where you have to be drawing, and so it's a world where you kind of want to play them on 3 and play Cheech on too, so that you're getting that card back. But this definitely belongs in a Ruby Sapphire deck or a whole new world Sapphire Steel deck. And so you don't necessarily care near as much about the draw because you've got, the shuffling ability of Ruby Sapphire and just the utterly, bonkers draw ability of a whole new world. And so that one little caveat, I don't think pushes them down that much, but T-Bow's insane. It's definitely an Amber Sapphire set.
It is. I mean, it is really.
Okay. Recapping Sapphire, we've got Cusco, Mufasa, and Chicha at S tier, and then Tipo at A tier. That might be the best set of cards from a tier list we've ever had. Mufasa's S tier.
Mufasa doesn't belong there, dude.
Don't at me, bro. Don't at me, bro.
Mufasa doesn't belong there.
Yes, he does. Okay. Please comment wherever you're listening / watching this. Is Mufasa S tier or is Mufasa A tier? I want more opinions. I want more thoughts. If I'm wrong, I will admit it. When Jake is wrong,
I will admit
we will be on the right path.
Great.
Okay. So moving on to Steel, as we wrap this up, we've got Jafar, which we also talked about in the legendary tier list, the 6-cost inkable 0/7 stat line, quests for 2. The 0/7 stat line is also accompanied by a challenger +7, which gives him a lot of strength on your turn. And also he has the ability that says characters with 4 costs or less can't challenge, period. Can't challenge him, can't challenge any of the other characters on board, can't challenge locations, can't challenge, period.
Yours can still challenge.
Yes, can't challenge, period. So he obviously is not near as strong against Ruby because of the 0 strength, but you just ink him then. He's inkable. It's one of those where it's like, okay, he's not good into a few matchups or 15, 20% of the matchups, then you just ink him. Get rid of it, doesn't matter, keep going. This is a solid. This is one where we feel like we're ahead of the curve on this card, but we might be wrong. Are we saying this is A tier as well?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, let's commit if we're going to commit.
Yeah, we have to. We're hoping we're ahead of the curve on Jafar, and that he's going to end up being as busted as we think he is, and that he's in my Steel Song list right now, and hope he stays there forever. Okay, moving on to, I think that this is Simba, right? This is not Mufasa.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know what this card is. I'm going to be completely honest.
Okay, well, good. I can teach you, and you can give me some. It's Simba. That's what I thought. So Simba is a 6-cost inkable. The son of Mufasa, 3/5 stat line, shifts for 4, quest for 1. Has the ability that says when you play this character, you may banish chosen item or location.
Okay.
So.
I hate the 1 lore.
Yeah,
I hate that.
1 lore is a little weak. The 3/5 stat line for a 6-cost body isn't fantastic. And again, if we're talking about banishing items, I would consider Cusco better because it goes into the inkwell, which normally you don't want to be ramping your opponent. But again, if you're putting very high key items into the inkwell, then that's very important because they're harder to get back. And if you're putting locations, it doesn't really matter. You just got to get them off the board. And so I don't know.
It's very low statted. Why is it such low statted?
I don't know. I want to put this A tier too, but I don't. I think it's probably B tier.
I don't know. I mean, sure.
We'll go mid to low B.
Okay.
I think it's really good. Again, it gives you a lot of utility around removing locations, which historically has been hard. There are a lot more locations that are good. There continue to be a lot of evolution around location decks. And so I think that there are more and more needs to deal with those locations. And so that it's just an important tool to have. Okay, moving on to Doc, which we talked about as card of the week in one of the most recent episodes. The Doc Bold Knight is a 2-cost uninkable 1/3 stat line, quests for 1, and has the ability when you play this character, you may discard your hand and draw 2 cards. So again, this is just a very good low-cost card draw engine. The discard your hand doesn't really matter because the way that I like to think about it is if it's a top deck and you get it, that's great. You don't have to discard anything. You just get to draw 2 cards. It's very low cost. The uninkable hurts it a little bit, but if it wasn't uninkable, it would be utterly busted.
So I'm thinking C for this one.
Ooh, I was thinking B.
But look,
I'm I'm fine with C. We got to even it out a little bit.
Because look at B though. B is all instant good value. Doc is somewhat niche compared to those.
That's fair. I can roll with that argument.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think B, in a I have 2 of him in my Steel Song deck. I think in a world where you don't want to play a whole new world to give your opponent cards, he's a good alternative to get a couple options to deal with your opponent's board. And so I think from that respect, he's really good. And last but definitely not least, we've got Pete, Games Referee, a 3-cost inkable, 3/3 stat line, quests for 1, and has the ability when you play this character, opponents can't play actions until the start of your next turn. So it turns off your opponent's ability to play any actions on their next turn. He's utterly busted. The more I think about it, the more I don't think he's anywhere close to the best card in the set. I think he's very, very good, but has to be used incredibly, incredibly well and incredibly, incredibly efficiently.
I agree, but I think it's S.
I'm very torn. I want to put him in A tier. That's a tough one. Like S tier, like that many S tier cards is like wild. But I mean, I guess it can happen. Like all of these cards are going to see a ton of play.
Yeah, they are.
So I guess I guess that's fair. It's just weird that you're going to see that many cards in play from one set.
I mean, all those cards except maybe Mufasa are 4-ofs.
And even all the A tier cards, I think are going to see a ton of play.
Yeah, I agree. Like,
when was the last time we had a set that was that like change that meta warping?
It's just weird not seeing Ruby in that spot because usually it is.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just, but no,
Yeah.
like this is really strong.
It's a very strong set for sure. Okay, so let's wrap up Steel now. We've got Pete in S tier. We've got Jafar in A tier. We've got Simba in B tier, and we've got Doc in C tier. So very well balanced, I guess, between all those as well. So, yeah, it's a very fun one for sure. I mean, I love doing these, and it's crazy. You know, it's very weird to have that many end up that high. But to your point, I think all those cards are going to see a ton of play. You know, just thinking back to our last tier list when we had like 3 S tier, there just weren't a ton of cards from that set that saw a ton of play. I mean, Diablo was the only one that really had like a ton of like massive impact on the game.
I'd say probably Diablo and Flynn.
And Brawl.
Yeah.
But we didn't put, I highly doubt we put Brawl S tier, but it probably was an S tier card for last set.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think overall, like if you're getting ready to dip your toes in the set, this is really like positive outlook. Like I think this is
Tons of potential.
Tons of potential. Just I'm sorry if you're a Ruby player. You didn't get a lot of tools.
But you didn't really need a lot of tools.
You didn't need
had
a lot.
everything you
True.
needed. You have Be King, you have Medusa, you have Shimmering, you have Be Prepared, you have Maui.
And if you're the other ink that you're playing with, either Amethyst or Sapphire, got a ton of tools too. So
and Amber, Amethyst, and Sapphire, like really went home, took the set to the bank. But anyways, yeah, I think that about covers it. Thanks everyone for listening. Any final thoughts from you?
No, I'm good.
All right, appreciate it, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye guys.